On October 8, 2018, Hurricane Michael underwent a 48-hour rapid intensification period where it went from a Category 1 hurricane to a Category 4 hurricane. By landfall on October 10, 2018 at 12:30 p.m. Central Time, Hurricane Michael was an unprecedented for the region Category 5 hurricane, making landfall near Tyndall Air Force Base, Florida. Hurricane Michael was the strongest hurricane in recorded history to make landfall on the Florida Panhandle. Landing with sustained winds of 161 miles per hour and a minimum pressure of 919 millibars, the storm was the fourth most powerful hurricane to hit the United States, spreading devastation far inland through many counties in northwestern Florida, from Bay County, Gulf County, Calhoun County, even through Jackson County and Leon County, where the state capital is located. Hurricane Michael was unique in that it maintained its major hurricane status all the way through the Florida-Georgia state line. As it entered Seminole County, Georgia, it was still a strong Category 3 hurricane. Across northwestern Florida and into the state of Georgia, Hurricane Michael was responsible for $25 billion in damages. These are the 31 voices of Hurricane Michael, representing the many unique experiences and perspectives of the community members who endured the storm and its impacts. Voices of hope, empathy, pain, lessons learned, grit, determination, and extensive insight into one of the most catastrophic hurricane seasons the Florida Panhandle has ever encountered. I'm meteorologist Melissa Thomas, and allow me to introduce you to
meteorologist Melissa Thomas here with another edition of the Hurricane Michael's Voice. Our voice today is Miss Claire DelMonego, and we're going to speak with her on her experience pre-Hurricane Michael's landfall on October 10th, 2018, during it, and her experience through recovery this past year. So let's begin with how was Panama City home? Well, first, thank you for coming out and speaking with us today.
It's my honor. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's start with getting to know you a little bit. How was Panama City home to you prior to Hurricane Michael?
Panama City is home. I was born in Lisenby Hospital when it was a hospital, and grew up here. We lived out at Alligator Point at the time, before it became Bay Point area, and went to school, graduated from high school here, worked the beach as a teenager, went to Gulf Coast Community College at the time, and turned into my husband out there. So it is truly home. My parents stayed here. My in-laws were here. My husband and I left town for work and lived all over the place. Retired in 2010 and came home. So we've been here, living here out at Bay Point ever since, and traveling around some when we can, visiting family, and really just enjoying being here.
Yay! Awesome.
Until the hurricanes come, but never mind. That's part of being home.
That is definitely a part of being home every single year.
Growing up here, we knew it was always a possibility, and the first hurricane that I remember hitting was Eloise in '75, I think it was. And that was an event, and that was scary, and we got out of town for that, and Eloise went right with us up to Alabama where we were. So that was an eye-opener, that they predict. The weather people predict as good as they can, and the hurricanes don't listen.
And sometimes you evacuate and it follows you right to your
destination. Yes, it did. Not nearly like Michael, but yeah.
Hurricane season 2018 rolls around. How are you feeling that season? Are you thinking hurricane?
Not really. I wasn't too terribly concerned. After we returned home, our house, we'd had it for a while and had it rented. So when we returned home, we renovated the house because it's ours. We're going to live in it, make it the way we want. That was a big job. And we didn't really finish the renovation at the time. until we'd been in the house a couple of years and we realized we needed to put a new roof on the house. And we wanted to make things as secure as possible. You know, when you're a homeowner and homeowner's insurance can be really expensive. So we did research. What can we do? We found a roof product that was pricey, but extremely strong, durable. Researched a whole bunch. We finally bit the bullet, took out loans, took money out of savings, and put on this roof. It's a clad metal roof that when they were done, basically, it's like the roof won't blow off. The whole house will go, but the roof won't blow off. And we bought hurricane shutters for the whole house. The metal slide-in shutters we got Lexan panels for each room so we could have some light, and hurricane screens, because we have a back patio that they said, well, we can't cover those with shutters. It's just too big. So you'd have to do all the other windows that are on the patio. And then we were contacted and said, there's this product. It's a hurricane Miami-Dade rated screen that can come down. So for the front door and the back patio, we got the screen. And we finally said, okay, while we're spending money on the house, making it as secure and strong as possible, we got a whole house generator installed. And it's, connected to the gas line, so it clicks on within seconds. So we're like, okay, we're set.
All things that you're doing that mitigate the price of homeowners insurance. So
that was originally, homeowners insurance plus all the places we lived overseas. There were places that in Africa, there would be a lot of power outages. We lived in Guam for a couple of years, and there was always a chance of typhoons there. You're on an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, a small island. We didn't have any, fortunately, while we were there. We had earthquakes instead. That's a whole nother issue. But we had been taught through our government work to prepare. We're each responsible for ourselves and our families. Prepare for the worst. Always prepare for the worst, and be pleasantly surprised if it doesn't happen. So we kind of knew, even though we're home, hurricanes happen, anything could happen. So we thought, okay, we're still, even though we're retired, we're still in this mode of do everything you can to make sure that you're ready when the worst happens. And fortunately, we didn't have to do it all at once. We did it over a period of a couple of years, got things done. And even, had the Ziploc bags with our files in our filing cabinet of pertinent documents that we would just pick up and put in the Ziploc bags and get in the car and go if we had to. But we stayed. When the hurricane came, we stayed because we were prepared.
And part of preparation with your hurricane shutters, putting that all together, is there a certain thing that you do prior to each season to get comfortable with using all of that?
Well, we always check everything. And we had, prior to Hurricane Michael, at least twice, we had done the putting up the shutters drill to practice. And my husband is the one that really knows how to do that the best. But he walked me through it too. And it's like, you do it in this order. In this window, you put this and you do it in this order and you put this and you go the next and the next and the next. And even to the point of, we have shutters for the garage, and that's the last, and you do half and you get the car in, and then and it's a lot of work.
And it's really good that you practice it before the storm is bearing down on you. So if there's any hiccups, you know about it beforehand and not in that last minute scenario.
Yes. And I did learn that it's not something I could probably do by myself very easily. It's always good to have someone to call on. That's not always easy. That's one thing that we find, that even though I have family right here, when a storm comes, everybody's focused on their own, which you have to be. So that's when you got to start ahead of time, when you know, but you really don't know. There's always that, is it really anything or is it not? When Irma was coming a few years ago, we thought Irma was coming. My husband had been out of town on a golf trip with some buddies, and he cut it short and came back because Irma's coming and got to get everything done.
And I recall a lot of lead time with that possibility.
Yes.
That was like a slow burn.
Right,
People
right.
had time to think about it. What are they going to do? We were prepping just days ahead.
Yeah, and we prepped, and we got all the shutters up, And our son and his wife live in Tallahassee, and because the year before, or was it the same year as Irma or the season before,
I
that
believe it was the season before because it
one
seems
went
like
through Tallahassee.
that was Hermine, and every
Yes.
year we've gotten a fall break due to hurricanes.
And Hermine. And so they were in Tallahassee and without power and trees down and dealing with that. So they said, we're going to come to you when Irma's coming because you've got the stronghold. And because we're like, you're coming this direction? Yeah, but we don't want to go through it over there. So they came and we were just like, okay. I'm glad that they came. We were all together. We had a lovely weekend without Irma. But it was an interesting reaction from them, deciding what they're going to do. So it was okay, as we know, it was,
Yeah.
a non-event here,
Yeah.
not so the rest of Florida, but it was a drill, it was a practice, it was, what do we need to buy? We get cases of water, we've got canned goods, we've got all this, stuff you don't have to cook, even though we knew that things would work. We expect them to, but we still don't know for 100% sure, even though we have the whole house generator. There's always that what if. So we've got the peanut butter and the crackers and the, all kinds of stuff that you might want to have for a non-cooking time, and lots of bottles of water. And okay, we rode it out quite comfortably.
I remember that as
Without
well.
a storm.
I went through it with a friend, and we had an amazing girls' night. Such a contrast to what could actually have happened, as we would learn.
Yes. So even though we're kind of feeling silly that we're overreacting to a potential storm, we were much better prepared with our plan of action when we needed it. The unexpected thing was a lot of our family and friends were like, oh, your house is all set. When a storm's coming, we're coming to stay with you. And I always tell them, like, bring your own pillows and blankets and be prepared. If everybody comes that they say they want to, people will be sleeping on the floor. Nobody came. Nobody came to stay with us. Everybody had the same thought process. I need to be home in my own house just in case, so that plus my daughter that lives over the outskirts of Lynn Haven, we're not in a flood zone. I don't need to worry about it. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law live over in Candlewick near them, Lynn Haven area. Not a flood zone. We're fine. We're staying home. We're not going to go to the beach because Panama City Beach, everyone was supposed to evacuate because a hurricane is coming. And that is the logical thing to do. Get away from the coast, because most storms, as we know, the coast gets the biggest beating and town is usually a little bit better off. We don't have the flooding issues. And this storm didn't play by the rules. And so we had family in their own homes alone, and of course no phones afterwards, and couldn't contact them. So we had a lot of that serious worry, serious concern.
Just after the storm.
Yes.
So as far as the storms rolling in, how did you guys fare in this incredibly prepared home for a Category 5 hurricane rolling over you?
We were good until our tree went on the house. We had one water oak tree in our front yard, and everybody that we knew that saw the tree, everybody was just like, oh, that's just a great tree. That is such a great tree. It's just perfectly set in front of the house, and it's just beautiful. And the water oak has one main trunk and then other trunks off of it. And the heaviest main trunk went on the house. We found out eventually. It was a strange scenario with a storm coming, because we're, as they say, hunkered down in the house. All the shutters are up. Everything's put away. We cleared the yard. We have a lot of plants in pots and things all around. That's always the drill. Bring everything in the patio, put the screen down. Nothing outside to fly. That's something I've known my whole life. Growing up here, my parents always, nothing outside to fly. You just clean it up. If you don't have a place for it, like we have a pool, you put it in the pool, like patio furniture and things that'll sink, because then it won't go anywhere, and you know where it is. So we had everything cleaned up. We even went to our next door neighbor. She was out of town, and we moved her stuff and cleaned that up. Both of our neighbors that don't live here in town, really good people. And it's in our best interest to help them because they're really good people. and we don't want anything that fly. So we were ready, and we were in, and everything's still working, and the cable went out. And the sound picked up really loud. And even though we have a panel in each window that we can see out, the storm was going by then. And so it's just like a whiteout outside, and leaves have gone up against the screens and things, and you really can't see. So then that panic level comes up a little bit because it's loud, and you can't see what's happening, and you can't go anywhere, and you can't do a thing. We have lights, we have air conditioning. I could go to the fridge if I wanted to. I didn't want to. That anxiety level is just right here. And at one point, we felt something. The whole house, what was that type of, what was that? And we're trying to look out the windows, and we couldn't really see. In our interior hallway off of the family room, there's a half bath with a skylight. We went and looked up there, and I went, uh-oh, there's limbs over the skylight. They're not supposed to be there. So, as we found out after the storm, the heaviest part of the tree went right on. One corner got damaged. We were fortunate. But it was just being through that and not being able to contact anyone and not being able to do anything but wait. That's one of the most terrifying and anxiety-producing events. I don't want to do that again. Like I said, we were fortunate.
So you would probably say that if another hurricane's headed this way, you're probably not going to ride it out. At what level, at what category at this point are you getting out of Dodge?
That's pretty tough. We kind of joke about it. It's, kind of funny, but not, that we don't have to worry about anything falling on our house because that tree is gone. We don't have anything else that could fall on the house. We replaced our roof. We got the repairs done. But I think if it was a 3 verging on a 4, we would probably leave, because we now know that the aftermath is, even though we were good, the anxiety is hard. It's really hard. I don't want anybody to have to go through that. It's a tough decision, because we could have left. I think one of the main reasons we didn't, we just were a little bit naive because we'd been away from it. We hadn't experienced it in a long time. And we had prepared as well as we physically could. We did not expect a Hurricane Michael Cat 5.
And the aftermath.
Yes.
It rolls through. What is immediately out of the gate like, and surfacing into your neighborhood?
Well,
The first couple of days like?
The first couple of days, as soon as the winds died down, we realized, okay, it's calm, it's quiet, we can go outside. And we went out just to look. And the visual was just astounding, as most everybody knows now. We have a golf course behind us, and we looked, and so many trees down. Walked around the front of the house and saw the tree all covering from our driveway, far side of our driveway, to our neighbor's driveway on the other side. This tree just went all directions. Everywhere, trees, debris, and nothing but wind, except for our generator making noise. Most of the people on our street to the end of it, and it's about 3 blocks long, and they were all gone. There was nobody there. A few people up towards the road leading to the main road out of Bay Point were still there, but we realized we had no cell signal. We had no communication at all, and we couldn't leave the street because there were trees just down everywhere. Excuse me. And we did encounter a couple that had come out of their house, and they're walking around taking pictures. We had not met them. They'd moved in the house they lived in only about 3 months before. They had a different cell service than we had, and theirs was working, and they said, here, use the phone, call somebody. And we're trying to call, and we can't get through. Finally got through a few. We reached my sister-in-law in North Carolina and said, we're okay, and we're trying to reach other people, and can you please reach out and keep trying? We couldn't reach my mother-in-law and sister-in-law Couldn't reach my daughter. Didn't know if they're okay, what's happened. That was more anxiety producing than the storm, because that's the type of thing that it just goes to your gut. You just worry so much. So we just immediately started cleanup because you got to do something because your brain's going crazy. Like, are they okay? What can I do? So we start cleaning up right around our property and still, just what can we do? What can we do? Talking to the people that we encountered, the people that are coming out of their houses. Are you okay? Are you okay? Yeah, we're okay. We're okay. And kind of looking around and taking stock of who's there and what they need. And, everybody's doing the same thing. A childhood friend moved in with her mother down the street, who's very elderly, and she's not physically able to do a lot, and mentally she's not the person she used to be. And like, are you okay? Is your mom okay? Do you need anything? And she's, yes, we're fine right now. So every day we were checking in. Are you okay? What do you need? And telling her, bring your mom to our house. We have air conditioning because the generator's running. And she's like, she won't leave her house because of the trauma. She needed to be home. So after 2 days, we were able to leave the street. My husband got up the next morning and went down the street with a chainsaw and started helping. Other people came out with chainsaws, and we don't know any of these people. And everybody starts clearing. And somebody got through with a big truck and put chains around some of the big, these huge pine trees that are 500 feet tall. I don't know. They just look that way especially when they're laying on the ground. You're like, wow. And they're cutting pieces and pulling them with chains out of the road and piling them up on the far side where there's, the golf course. There's nobody there. And just everybody really, kind of helping out. And
the entire time not knowing what your family situation is.
Right.
Across the bridge. You're in Panama City Beach.
Yes, we're on the west side of Hathaway Bridge.
Yes.
And after the road was clear to the end, at one point my husband said, okay, one of the people that he was working with said, if you drive west on 98 Back Beach Road, you can get a signal when you go almost out of the county. So when we were able, we got in the car, get out of the neighborhood, drove out onto Thomas Drive, at the top of Thomas Drive, just looking at all the damage along Thomas Drive. Go west when we hit Highway 98 and drive about a block past Thomas Drive and went, there's no damage. Okay, power's out. You can tell power's out because traffic lights are, not working. And most people were being pretty careful for a while because everybody's kind of still shell-shocked and you don't know what to expect. By the time we got down to the Home Depot, we're like, there was no storm here. How did that happen?
And I'm so glad you bring that up and highlight the difference in damage between the different sides of the bridge. You have Panama City Beach, you have Panama City proper,
Mm-hmm.
and to an extent, post-Hurricane Michael, there was this divide of who was hurt, who was not hurt, who should help more, who shouldn't help more, and it was definitely a tense time for everybody. And I think that I hope that from this we're uniting the different personalities more, hopefully in the long term, because we all are one unit.
Yes.
And I'm really glad you came out to speak today, because what I think a lot of the times under the tense moments of frustration, when people are speaking out of frustration, they don't realize that a lot of Panama City Beach side had family on this side.
Oh, yes.
So while they may not have physically been in the worst part of the storm, their heart was in the worst part of where the damage is. And
right.
so it's just as much of a trying time for the Panama City Beach family members inside as it is for our side.
Yeah.
We should use that fact to unite everybody.
Everyone was impacted in traffic, the difficulties in getting around, and the difficulties in getting the supplies that you need in recovery, even just groceries, because the trickle down, just to get stuff back in town, to restock the stores that had been impacted. Everybody was impacted in some degree. It was frustrating when you're in town and you're like, well, people can go out to eat on the beach. Well, that's really not one of the main concerns, I thought. but you're really hurting. Everybody was really hurting in multiple ways. And that hurt lingered for a long time. And we need to let some of that hurt go now because we're all getting better. But once we were, able to drive, and we were just astounded that all of these insurance companies had set up emergency camps at the Home Depot parking lot and the Lowe's parking lot. And we're just like, immediately, there's our insurance swerve over there. It's like, okay, we need, got started, got on the internet there, got to make phone calls. And the feeling of relief that came just knowing that there was that, we could do it right there, we could get started. That was a big help. And then we drove into town and the shock hit all over again. The shock of it was so much worse than we imagined. I mean, we were hit bad, but it just got worse and worse and worse. And you see, you can't navigate intersections. You can't get through roads that you used to drive. And you don't recognize neighborhoods.
And you're doing all of this under the shadow of curfew. You're trying to navigate.
Right.
And it's slowing you down. You're trying to do this knowing curfew's looming.
Yes. It's like you got to get out early because you got to get back early. But we got to my mother-in-law's house first. And that was on Friday. The hurricane hit Wednesday. We got there Friday, early afternoon. My mother-in-law has Alzheimer's. She was okay. Alzheimer's progresses at its own pace. Every person, it's different. She was pretty much, okay in her home. Their home had minimal damage. Fences were down. That was the first thing you saw. Trees down, roofs damaged through the neighborhood, just blown away. A lot of two-story houses. And some trees on houses, because there was a few homes that had really big trees. Beautiful trees are gone. Navigate around, zigzag around the streets because of debris. We get to their house and fences are down everywhere. A lot of people had the really beautiful white vinyl fences. It was a very pretty neighborhood with that. Those things don't last in a hurricane. They fly everywhere. So visuals had changed dramatically. And of course, had no power, no water. So when we get to the house, we go in and my mother-in-law and sister-in-law are sitting out on their beautiful little side porch. That's Mom's spot. It's, she knows where she is there. It's comfort zone. The wooden fencing between her and the neighbor was still up there. Beyond it, it was down. So they had a little bit of normalcy, but, no power, no water, restricted what they could do, what they could eat. And we go and, we talk to them and, Mom, you're okay. And she wasn't okay. We quickly realized she was not the same person mentally. And she's always the hostess. She's the mom, she's the hostess. Even though we're family, known her for years, you come in and she goes, oh, hi, can I get you something to eat, something to drink? You must be hungry, let me make you something. Here, you want some iced tea, whatever. And we're like, no, we're okay, we're okay. The Alzheimer's, she tends to forget she said that, so she repeats it, but that's okay, we know, we understand that. She didn't do that. She was sitting and kind of rocking and mumbling to herself. Like I said, she's always busy. She doesn't sit. She doesn't like to sit. She's always got to get up, constantly. If she can't think of what to do, she'll get up and she'll get a cloth and she'll wipe down the counters and things because she's taking care of her home the best way she can remember. But she kind of sat and she's trying to engage in conversation and she can't. We're like, okay, this happened to the house. My husband and, his sister are talking about what have we got to do. And Mom's sitting there going, uh-huh. And I realize she's kind of sitting there and she closes her eyes and she's kind of just mouthing and she kind of curls up gradually into a ball. Seated, just hunched over. She's never done that before. And I was, without drawing attention to her, at one point I'm kind of like, we got to do something. And Joe's like, yeah, that's what they'd been talking about. They walked outside, walked around the house. So I'm in there with Mom trying to keep her engaged and realizing it's not happening, just assessing the house. One window had broken. As it turned out, Mom had been walking around the house inside the whole time the storm's going on, and Debbie kept trying to pull her away from the windows. Well, Mom's concerned. She's got to see what's happening, and Debbie's mom, come away from the windows. They didn't have any shutters. They didn't think they needed them. Not on the coast, not in a flood zone. Everything will be fine. She had been looking out a back window, and we think a piece of the fencing hit it, and the window broke. She wasn't hurt, but that traumatized more than anything, because Debbie said after that, it was like she literally was in shock. So agreement was, we got to get them out of the house. So they came over to our house that night and trying to get Mom to eat. She didn't want to eat. She didn't understand the drive out. You know, Debbie said the whole time, because they drove their car out, she's like, just when she was alert and awake, she's looking around just totally in shock. Most of the time she just fell asleep in the car. Got them out there, cooked a meal, here, you know, Mom eat. She's just not interested. She just can't figure out what, you know, mentally, she's gone somewhere else in her mind. So they took off and went, my husband went, or Debbie, I think, went and made a phone call because they'd talked about it. My oldest sister-in-law lives in Texas. Debbie and Mom are getting in the car in the morning and driving to Texas. Go, you know, out there to her oldest, you know, her oldest girls out there together. Mom, it's going to be great. It's going to be fun. They had to take 2 days to drive because it's too hard on Mom anymore to do in one day. They're south of Houston. Yeah. So it's like a 17-hour drive.
I remember you, pre-interview, we were speaking about something I thought that was really interesting about that, is that she would wake up every morning and see the damage. And so you speak to her every day as a storm, like Florida gets the night before it happened, and walk her through that and help her feel normal in those moments.
Yes, that's what we had to do the morning. Then they're going to leave because they just spent the one night with us. And Mom just fell asleep on the sofa. Instead of going to the bedroom to sleep, she just fell asleep there. So we just brought out, you know, pillow and blanket and got her comfortable. And she slept there all night. But in the morning, I got up, get the coffee going to get them ready to get on the road. And, you know, it's still dark. And I'm walking out past the sofa, and Mom reaches her hand up and grabs me, and she says, "Good morning. Did you sleep okay?" You know, and I'm like, "Yes, I did. Did you sleep okay?" "Oh, yeah, I slept fine. Let me go make breakfast for you." I'm like, No. I got the coffee on. So, you know, get the coffee, and she's, can we go sit on the patio? She loves to sit on our patio. She loves to do yard work in general. She's always piddling around in the yard, as we call it, because she's got to do something, even if everything's fine. But that's her thing. She loves being outside. And she just, you know, tidying. She's always tidying something. So we take the coffee and sit out there, and she looks and she's like, what happened? Was there a storm? Did I sleep through it? I'm like, you know what? It sure looks like there was a storm, and I slept through it too. I didn't wake up at all, but it looks like there was a storm. My goodness, it must have been quite a storm. And she's like, wow, how did I sleep through that? I'm like, well, we still have the shutters on the house. That must have made it quiet. So she was getting more and more anxious looking at it. Aren't they going to do something? Those trees. Aren't they going to do something about those trees? I'm like, well, you know, I bet they will. I said, it's still early yet. I bet as soon as they get, you know, the maintenance for the golf course will come out and they'll take care of it. Oh, okay. I hope they do something about those trees. So, you know, I could tell her mind was racing. So like, let's go make sure Joe and Debbie, you know, are getting things done. And then they come out and Debbie's like, Mom, we're getting in the car and we're driving to Donna's house today. We're going to Texas. Oh, we are? Okay. All right. Oh, I haven't seen Donna in so long. So we, you know, all kind of agreed without even talking about it. We've got to take this tone that This is fun. This is an adventure. You're going to get to go see. And then she's like, why don't we all go? Just like, Mom, you know what? As soon as we clean up this yard, you guys go out there first, and then we'll come out later. Okay, I'll tell Donna you're coming. It's like, okay, let's get going, Mom. And, so they took off, and it's like, oh, thank goodness. I hope they're okay mentally on the drive. And as it turns out, the longer they stayed out in Texas, the better she got when she's with her girls and in a place that she remembered. And her sister and brother-in-law came from Colorado and stayed with them. They stayed until the 1st of December. They didn't come back for Thanksgiving. They talked about coming out for Thanksgiving. We're like, give it a little bit longer because town still needs work. And we don't want her to go back into that mental, I don't know what happened.
Triggered.
So they stayed till the 1st of December, and she was pretty good. Her neighborhood, a lot had been cleaned up. They kind of timed it where they came back after it was getting kind of dark, so a lot of the visuals with trees and things weren't as evident. Got to the house, and she slept in her own bed and woke up the next morning, and Debbie was like, it's almost like nothing happened. Then she had to wrap her mind around it when they finally went. We did the grocery shopping, got the house all stocked before they came back, so they wouldn't have to go out and see it right away. And we came to them, keeping Mom in her home, because we realized this was an irreversible mental change. The comprehension. Her memory is what it is, but so much visually changed, and she just could not comprehend it. So we wanted to make things as easy as possible, and she's done really well. She's in a year. She seems to have gradually come around to the fact there was a major hurricane and it did major damage, and we're all okay. She's accepted. She doesn't remember, but
That's really cool.
It's easier. It has become easier. Her memory's gone through other changes of things that, it's just part of it. And we can't help but think that the storm accelerated the changes in her memory, but the trauma seems to have left for the most part. So the rest of the family did pretty good. We finally, after seeing about Mom and Debbie, went to my daughter's house. That was trauma to me. Her neighborhood was badly hit. It's a street, duplex houses. They were all built around the same time, so they're all about the same age. She had a tree in the back, nice big backyard actually for these locations. I forget what kind of tree it was, in the back of the yard, away from the house. The tree was gone, fences were gone. They lost some shingles, lost power. The air conditioner unit was blown off of the concrete pad. But other than that, they did fairly well. The house across the street, the roof was completely gone. The exact same house, one street in between them. That shocked me because I thought it could have been them. It was so random, up and down their street, damage, no visible damage.
Obliterated, fine.
Yeah, it's just totally random. So they left town a day or two after we visited them. I think it was probably by the Saturday, went to my younger daughter up in Enterprise, Alabama. Of course, the storm went up there, and they had a lower grade hurricane, but they didn't have damage. They lost power for a time. By that time, everything was fine for them. So they went and stayed with them for about a week. And then my son-in-law did come back down and helped us to do some cleanup. My nephew that retired from the Coast Guard came down from Norfolk area and brought his truck, chainsaws, tools. They got busy on Mom's house and did a lot of the cleanup, assessing, measuring the window, just anything that needed to be done. They got on the ball, get that taken care of. My mother-in-law's house that they grew up in, out in Springfield, it had been on the market for sale in the little neighborhood near Rutherford and Everett and Springfield Elementary. That house was not in good shape. They did go over there and assess that. No longer on the market for sale. Trees, big pine trees in the neighborhood, went down dominoes, one on top of the other, and went through the roof in over the 3 bedrooms. It was one of those random things. The little one-year's house, 1 bedroom, 3 bath, all 3 bedrooms. 1 bathroom, 3 bedrooms, sorry. All 3 bedrooms had pine tree limbs going through them. So, roof nearly gone, a lot of damage. The rest of the house, when you go in a little bitty living room and eating kitchen area, they'd added on a family room in the back, and the bathroom, no damage at all. Not a single window broken in that house. I still don't understand how that's happened. No glass damaged at all. Of course, all the houses around there was so bad. So that was another kind of a blow. It's like, oh. But Mom has not come back to that neighborhood since. She can't. That house is under reconstruction now because it's going to go on the market because that's badly needed housing space. But that was, one of those things that I didn't go see it for about a month. I couldn't. I still haven't gone to Mexico Beach a year later. I just, it hurts still.
Yes.
Don't want to see it. Don't need to see it. We'll let it recover.
I actually have a friend that went out this week, and it was hard.
Yeah, the pictures I've seen still, and I have friends that have gone, and it was like, I've seen the pictures, I know, it's bad. Because that was a part growing up. We went to Mexico Beach. I lived near Panama City Beach on the beach side, but to have a peaceful getaway,
My
go
father
there.
and I would go for father-daughter dates, Caribbean coffee.
Oh,
Long
yeah,
time growing
yeah.
up. Take a motorcycle ride to Mexico Beach for coffee. And he got to serving coffee right out the gate. Dave with Caribbean
Really?
Coffee in Mexico Beach.
Well,
He
good
was
for
serving
him.
First responders. He's serving coffee in Mexico Beach. Currently, his business is they had repairs for a long time, but they're
Yeah.
operating and getting to a better spot. So
That's
we still
badly needed.
Definitely put our emotional armor on and drive
Yes.
into the damage to get a cup of coffee and just
Support.
still keep doing that.
That's
Yeah.
support, yeah. Went to my parents' house in Old St. Andrews on 9th Street, right on the bay. That was a shock. When we drove down Beck Avenue, saw it was literally blown away, and went down that street. And the people from here that know that street, all the big old trees, oak trees, hickory trees, all kinds of trees, just beautiful, old homes. And you drive down and it's like, I don't recognize anything. Got to their house. You couldn't see the house from the street because trees down. My brother had been staying in the house because my dad passed away 36 hours before the hurricane. He had been in the hospital. My mother passed away 6 years ago.
I'm so sorry.
The expectations, when a hurricane comes up here, as we know, you got to protect the water side of the house because that's where the damage is going to come. So he put the boards that was always there at the ready over the windows on the water side, closed everything up, protected, cleaned up the backyard. When my husband got there and we walked, we saw how these big oak trees had gone down on the garage and covered the front entryway. So it looked okay, except the garage was damaged. So we walked around the side to see, and you're like, this is the strangest storm. There was no water damage. The water didn't come up. Everything is as it was, except the chimney cap had blown off in the backyard, and trees and the neighbors had blown down trees kept coming down. But there was nothing else wrong with the water side. It was like, how weird is this? This never happens. So we're like, okay. Got in the house, figured out there was, my mother had always had, we always left, there was 2 big wrought iron chairs on the front porch. So my husband crawled through, big limbs you could get through, crawled up, got a chair down. So I climbed up on that and I had the keys. We went in. Everything's okay. except there's no power, no water initially. Everything's good. So I reached my brother. He was out of town with his family, and told him everything's fine, you know. The neighbors that we've known our whole lives growing up, the Pettises, they had left town. Saw damage they already knew. They had already been contacted that they had a carport to come down on their cars. And, you know, it's pretty grim. Their house is still being worked on. They won't be in it until next year sometime. About 2 years after the storm before they're going to be in. It's an old historic home. A lot of details that they're being careful with, but a lot more damage than they realized initially. So it was kind of like, okay, now we know it's okay. I got a hold of my sister that lives in town. Both of her daughters were pregnant, expecting within 2 weeks of each other. Her first grandson was born on October 8th at Gulf Coast Hospital, C-section, which was known. And they kept him in the hospital through the storm.
Oh my.
Because with a C-section, they didn't want her to move yet. The day after the storm, they let her leave, and my sister got her and the newborn, and they drove to Mobile to relatives over there. And the older sister, who was imminently due, went with, and she delivered her son, the second grandson, in Mobile, and then came home later. So that was very, very different from what had been planned. You know, that's one of the things with the storm. There's just, what can you do? And, you know, my niece had said that was very traumatic, the whole thing. You know, her memories are very, very traumatic, the whole event, because that's not what you want to happen. They're all over it. They're better. They're good. We just had the first birthday parties, and it was great fun. You know, these adorable baby boys that are just, they're going to be raised like brothers, you know. So, you know, everything's turned out well. Their homes are getting redone, but...
And those little ones will probably, they have a story for their
Yes,
birth, and they could potentially be forces of nature's themselves coming out the gate.
Yeah.
The way they did.
Everybody was asking him, I'm like, okay, you already picked names, but who's changing it to Michael? No, 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 no. That is not going to be put on these babies. So, you know, recovery still continues with all our homes. And my oldest niece that had the baby in Mobile, she's an RN, and she has taken a year off to get her nurse practitioner license. She's studying. So she's being very, very good and still working part-time to keep in at Gulf Coast Hospital, but she's got her future planned out. And my niece that had the baby first, she was a sonographer and was working at a medical hospital. She doesn't have a job anymore. That's part of it. You know,
The hospital's lost a lot of positions
Yes.
post Hurricane Michael. Lots and lots
Yes.
of layoffs. And
Yeah, that was something that really hit hard in this area, because what can you do? You know, it was unexpected that people would actually get laid off. She thought she still had a job because she was on maternity leave. So her job was protected by law. She worked 4 times. They put her on call. And then they were like, well, we don't need you anymore. Maternity leave is over. And it's like, okay. That's a very unfortunate, unpleasant reality that has hit a lot of people afterwards, that jobs are just gone because they just can't do anything else when they have no place. The building's gone, you know, they can't conduct business for a lot of things. That's going to be a big part of the recovery. In that, you know, we were glad we were retired. It didn't impact us. We were able to help other people. But it's still, when you know, there's times I sit and think about it, like on the anniversary date. We were out of town. We had planned for the last about 4 years to go to the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. It's always in October. It's a huge, huge event. my mother-in-law's from Albuquerque area, but my husband had never done it because they would go out there growing up for vacations in the summer or something like that, and never with the balloon fiestas going on. So he had said, we want to do this. And every year, since my father was very ill, and then his father passing away, having to move his mother, there's always things that have been happening that prevented us from going. So he was adamant, we're going this year, as long as the Gulf of Mexico behaves. So we were away and kind of tried to ignore the anniversaries because we're doing something different, and that was the intent, is we're not dwelling on, we know what happened, we see it every day. We're not going to be these people sitting and going, oh, poor me, this is what we did a year ago, because it doesn't help.
I'm
You
so glad
don't
you bring that up,
progress.
because I believe we've done a couple interviews by post the anniversary as of this date. Taping today is the 24th, 23rd? 24th.
23rd is the 23rd, yeah.
So taping is the 23rd that we're doing this today. And you bring up Hurricane Michael's anniversary, which we have now been through as of taping. How would, in your observations, because the project hasn't got to explore that, and I think it is very important.
Okay.
How was the anniversary in your observations of your community? And I think it was very important, your choice to say on the anniversary, we're not going to think about it. That's kind of the approach I had as well, especially working the project. I took the anniversary as a mental health. We're going to not think about the hurricane today.
Yeah.
We're going to do something removed from it and enjoy our day in spite of this day.
Yes. Since we were out of town, I kind of just stayed away from it. But later I looked at Facebook, checking in, and some of my friends had pleasantly the same idea. If they put some on Facebook, they said, a few people did put, look, people, this is what happened a year ago and we're still in it. I'm like, they have to. It's their way of dealing with it. Most of my friends, family, were saying, yeah, this hit us a year ago, but you know what? We've come a long way. And the only way forward is forward. On the 12th of October, we had my class reunion. I won't say what year. One of my friends from back junior high days, she's an artist here in town, has her own gallery. She stood up on her own volition because what she did was she had painted a picture for one of our classmates. She just decided to do this on her own because his whole home was destroyed. He's been through very serious medical challenges within the year before Michael and afterwards, and he's a big, strong guy, and he hasn't asked for a thing. Actually, there was pictures they were in La Villa Cove Apartments, and it made national news. A picture of their unit, and I think a picture of him standing in it afterwards, where there's just a couple of walls and that's it. So she painted a picture of her interpretation of the storm, and she got up to say she was giving this to them. But she said, you know what? I am over Michael. I refuse to let Michael have anything to do with my life anymore, beyond the fact that I still have work to do. But she says, Michael doesn't own me. Michael doesn't define me. Michael is history, and we are now. And we are going forward. She goes, I'm over it, people. Let's go on with our lives. And I thought, that was really good. It didn't occur to me to even, say, the one classmate who kind of, there was a couple of them that made the big speeches. And one of them was, she was saying, we all had loss of varying degrees. And we will remember and we will observe and, talk to each other. If you want to, talk about it. But we're celebrating the fact that we're here. We're survivors. And let's celebrate us. That was kind of our theme, is we're going to celebrate us, that we're still here. And so when Donna got up and said, I'm over Michael, he'd unknown me. It's like, yep, that got a big round of applause.
I love that.
And she presented the painting, and they were very, very touched. The couple, it was like, yeah, that was a wonderful gesture. And she's that kind of person that she just decides to do it. So my take, and like I said, most of my friends and family on Facebook were, we'll never forget, but we will move on. get over it. You know, as my granddaughter was a big fan of the movie Frozen Disney movie. Let it go.
Let it go. I love it.
It's like, yeah, that should be our theme song. Let it go, because it's gone.
And I think that moving forward into the future with the community, with community members such as yourself that hold on to that perspective, can help raise the rest of us up with that perspective and move forward. And I think Panama City, Bay County, Panama City Beach, Mexico Beach, they're all going to be in good hands with community members such as yourself.
We've got a great opportunity now to redefine our community and make it better. I've only gone to a couple of the meetings because we all have too much going on about the rebuilding of Panama City and Bay County. I think there's some really good ideas. Decisions are being made by the people who have to make it, and I don't know what they're going to do for everything, but I'm really hopeful. I know they listened to people making suggestions about how to make our community bigger, better, stronger, to stand up to future storms and not hopefully alleviate some of the problems that we've had, but
learning from our experience.
Yes, we still have a lot to do, a lot to learn. We can only do so much. I think it's going to be ongoing. When we were out on our vacation, we visited friends, Virginia. We went all the way to Wisconsin earlier in the year for, unfortunately, a memorial service for a colleague from our work days. My first trip to Wisconsin. People up there were saying, you know, if we mentioned the hurricane, they were like, oh, well, how is it? Is everything okay now? And that was just said, well, it's better. It's not okay. And so it's going to be a decade probably before we'll say it's okay. If we ever say it's okay, everything's better though. But of course, many people had no idea that there had been anything of this magnitude because it didn't touch their lives. And when they have their blizzards in Wisconsin, we don't have any idea because it doesn't touch our lives. That's one thing that I have gained is a much bigger understanding that we know what we know. We don't know what we don't know. So we have to adjust our expectations of sympathy from the rest of the world because it's just not happening. They don't know what we went through. We don't know what they're going through. So it's okay.
And I like to use, for my example, the Paradise Fire. I
Oh,
recently
yes.
watched a documentary on how obliterated that town was, their routines, their
So
high
fast.
school, everything. And I remember hearing about the fires, and I can't tell you I thought about it for more than 3 days after that event.
Right.
So I try to use that as an example when people are feeling forgotten, that when you're not in it, it is only natural and human nature
Yes.
for life to pull you along with your obligations, deadlines, bills, schools, work.
You live right where you live. The rest of the world is out there. And we can't fix their issues. They can't fix ours. We just got to do what we do. But be mindful, we're not the center of the universe. You know, as much as we want to be the center of the universe, we're not the center of the universe.
And maybe hopefully take this experience and how we have felt and be better community neighbors to states around us.
Yes.
And to recognize when an event happens for another community, hey, I remember what it felt like. Maybe a couple months after, lend some assistance when the rest of the world has moved on. Hey, I know you feel forgotten. So we can use this experience to help our neighbors.
We had a lot of help, and we need to pay a lot forward when the time comes. We don't want to have to do it. No one wants to have a disaster happen, or even just, you know, an unfortunate event. Doesn't have to be a disaster to help, but we owe it. We definitely owe it to others because I saw the lines of trucks coming in from all over. I did recently notice when we thought, 2 times when there were storms might be coming, and, I drive up Thomas Drive and I saw in parking lots power trucks again. I was like, this is impressive. They're staging. Okay, they didn't have anything to do. Good, they didn't have anything to do. They can go somewhere else. But I was impressed that there's proactive responses from out of town that I don't know who's arranging it, but it's happening. So it's like, yay, that's good.
And hopefully
You know.
our community will be a part of future task response teams.
Yes, we
Because
have
now
to
we've
be.
been there, we have the experience. Those of us that can
Right.
take that experience on. And pay it
That,
forward.
yeah, that's one of the main things is, just reminding people preparation is key. You cannot over-prepare. Even if you think you've over-prepared, nature just takes over in ways you cannot predict. So we keep trying to over-prepare at our house. I'm one of the, possible storms, I went and bought 2 cases of water. And my husband's like, what'd you buy that for? Because we don't have any. And even if we've got a generator for power, when the water goes out, we can't drink the water from our irrigation well.
Well,
We have to do it.
I'm so glad you came out to speak with the project today, and I think you brought a
Good.
lot just of valuable insight into preparation, unique insights into family members with health issues that are going through it, and then of
Yeah.
course your perspective on the future. I love it, and I'm so glad that you
Well, I'm
shared
glad
the
I was
project.
able to help, and I hope that it will help someone in the future to have ideas of how to prepare and have some peace of mind that we come through the other side. Preparation is key, and we come through and we move on, and
That's life.
that's life. That's what we have to do. We have to keep that hope going.
I love it. Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much, Miss Claire. Thank you.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.